There we go.
All right. We're recording, and I think we are also on Facebook now. All right, everybody's frozen. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Can hear and see you.
Okay. I can't see any of you. Oh.
Good to see you.
That's good, I guess.
There's a bunch of good-looking people, I promise.
I believe you.
Jace, I can't see you.
I can't see myself.
I'm sorry, everybody.
I can't get my video to work. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can see you and hear you. Okay, so that's okay. But I don't know why my video is not working.
No, that's definitely not what I want. Oh, no. You guys gone?
Nope.
You still there?
Still here.
Okay, I can see myself on Facebook. Hi, everyone on Facebook, but I can't see myself on Zoom.
If it helps, today's announcement of the meeting did not work and last week's did.
I just take the same thing every time.
yeah. This link worked better for me, but I can't see you, Jace, and I can't see any other live party.
Maybe I may just need to make a new link, like everything. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll sort that out with everybody on maybe next week.
All right.
I'll
Thank
let
you.
everybody know.
All right.
Arizona, did you need something? You have your hand up.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm on. Yes, and Arizona explains who she was, and yes, I remember you from last week. Sorry about that. Sometimes people sneak in here and then they do not okay things online. So yay, I see everybody. Nice to have you all. Only 5 minutes late. We all cannot wait for Travis to get done with his vacation. It's been like 4 years or something. He's been gone for I don't know how long. But Travis is my link to this whole technology world. Actually, Sarah usually, but Travis too. Nice to see all of you. Let's pray. Thanks, Father. We got started late, and you don't care that much about that. But you love all these people, and we're all trying to understand this weird text that you've put together for us, or the church has put together for us from your hands, from your heart, and we want to understand it. So help us to do that today. Help us to be humble and thoughtful, and I don't know, have some fun too. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, here's what we're doing, everybody. The Living Dead. You guys know we've been talking about bizarre monsters, deities, demons, dragons, death, and I don't know what other D I had on there. But all these just weird creatures that show up, especially in Hebrew Bible, but we try and go into the New Testament as much as we're able. But New Testament theology changes so drastically from Old Testament that sometimes it's hard to have the same themes in there. But we will jump in and talk about the Living Dead today. So how many people like zombies? Are you zombie fans? Okay. Oh, there's a definite no from Rebecca, an up yes from Riston I saw. But okay, let me because we had so many problems here, let me see if this host of things, if people are saying they can't get on. Okay, we're okay. So zombies, zombie movies. What do we got? We got what is that? Like that Z movie with Brad Pitt. What was that one?
World War Z.
World War Z. Yep. We got The Walking Dead. Obviously, we got 28 days later and 28 years later, and
I like Warm Bodies because it's lighthearted and romantic. It's not your typical zombies movie. Yeah.
Wait, so this is a movie about the living dead, but it's somewhat romantic.
Yes.
And it's lighthearted. And like the zombies become humans again. It's so cool. I like it.
Okay, so they live again for real living, like not just dead living, but real living now. All right, sounds creepy to me, but whatever. Yeah, there are all kinds of different zombie kinds of things out there, and this is what we're doing today, zombies. So, we get to see lots of dead people in Hebrew Bible. Okay, they're all over the place and they are fascinating. And we're going to look at as many of these passages as we can, some of them real quickly, some of them we'll walk through really slowly. But a couple of things we've got to probably get right from the beginning. Gosh, it's been a long time since we talked about this stuff. Is our terminology down? So that is our modern terminology about the Bible kinds of stuff. So it's not actual their terminology, but we have this kind of word, shade, right? And of course, ghost. Can you read that stuff?
Yes.
So very light, isn't it? Okay, so we got more people in the waiting room. Hold on just a second. View. And yes, admit all. We hope that they're safe people. Okay, so we got shades and we got ghosts. For the sake of our conversations, I don't care what you call these things. Okay, this is just English kinds of things. In Hebrew, they're called, let's see here, Rephaim. Okay, so Rapha is the word there, and then im is the ending, which means it's just plural, right? Rephaim. So Rephaim or something like that. Okay, and this refers to dead people. That's it. It's just dead people. Okay, or dead. I don't know if they're people anymore once they're dead, but whatever. They were people at one point. Now they're dead things, dead people. Mostly still people. Okay, but shades are what generally we refer to when these dead communicate with the dead. That is, they have a whole little world to themselves. They live in this place that you guys know. It's called Sheol, the place of the dead, right? The netherworld, the underworld, or something like that. And sometimes there's communication. Most of the time there's not. Most of the time they're asleep. Okay, but sometimes they seem to hang out together.
Yep.
Very weird. They do stuff. Okay, but ghosts are when they start communicating with living people. Okay, that's the difference. So you remember, Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg and the communication they have with the dead there, right? She pulls in who's the guy? Help me out, movie guy.
Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze. Thank you. Yes, there we go. So Patrick Swayze's dead in the movie, and the whole holding. Anyway, okay. So this is what we're talking about here: ghosts and shades. Keep in mind, dead do not become angels or demons. Okay, if you want to put that on Facebook that your friend became an angel today, that's fine. I will let you get away with it. Okay, I don't care. But that is horrible theology, right? The Bible never talks about such things. That's not the way it works. Could it be true? I guess so, maybe, but the Bible definitely doesn't portray it that way. Okay, so that's just not the direction that it goes. They don't become angels. They don't become demons if they're good or they were bad or anything like that. They're very similar, shades and ghosts, except for how they interact with others, where they stay, whether they cross their boundaries or not. Remember, our cherubim are all about boundary crossing. They don't care about this one, but that's what's going on here is if they cross the boundary and come up, and it's always up, they're always ascending if they do that, and they descend into the lower depths of the earth, or something like that, right? But when they come up, they've crossed a boundary that they're not generally supposed to cross. Although it seems pretty normal. They cross the boundary often, seems like. Okay. So the dead are all in this Sheol or the abyss. Abusas is the Greek. Sheol is the Hebrew. The abyss is sometimes the pit. something like that. Netherworld, underworld, they live in this place. There's no understanding. We got to get rid of this right from the beginning, because I know we come in with our modern understanding of the Bible because we heard it from John MacArthur or Andy Stanley or somebody who's just followed the norm of the last 50 years or 100 years of thinking. There is no such thing as heaven or hell. Okay, the Hebrew Bible does not understand what you're talking about. If you go in there and say, well, in the end, we go to this place or we go to this place, they say, okay, maybe, I don't know, but that's nothing, it's not in our text. And
No idea what you're talking about.
Okay. I think somebody's is on. I think maybe Jordan. Yours keeps popping on. That's so okay, so there's no heaven, there's no hell. That's a very modern understanding of things. If there is a heaven, that is a place, it's the place that God dwells, but it's not the place that you go. Okay, so this is the place God lives, and you don't dwell there, and you don't go there, and God might have all those monstrous beings that come with him, remember, and we're going to go into those more in the future, Rabisu and Ketev and Rephesh, all those things that they might live with him or something like that. They live in that upper world where gods live. Hell has not been invented yet. There is no hell. Go ahead and have fun looking back there for all the hell words. All you'll ever see is Sheol, okay, or something like that. Okay, these are just the places of the dead. They're not tortured. They're not living in bliss. They're just in a world of the dead now. Just another world that they live in. It's kind of a world, kind of not a world. And remember, we don't have to have strict, like, here's our systematic theology about what happens when they're dead, because the Bible is not univocal, right? It's multivocal. It speaks about a lot of different things because lots of people have different views on things. So they throw things out there. Here it is. And, you know, Isaiah might not agree with Ezekiel on it. They might not disagree. They're just talking from their own understanding. They live in different places, perhaps, and they've thought about it differently. They're different, and they're not trying to argue for this is what you have to believe about everything. This is just in their world, and so they're talking about it. So everyone goes to the underworld, not a place of torment, not a place of bliss, nothing like that. It is elsewhere. It's beyond. It's not in this world. And it's kind of in this world. And there are ways, and not even really that difficult ways, it seems like, to get out of that world and to come back into our world sometimes. All you need is some soothsayer, necromancer, somebody who can summon you and you can get out of it, or some other accidents can happen and you can get out. It seems to be a bleak place, a dark place, but not a bad place. Like, I mean, I guess bleak and dark makes it kind of bad, but it's not like, okay, you get thrown there because you're bad. That's not what's going on. The dead are, in some sense, gone, but the whole goal of living in this place is that they will somehow be remembered, right? So they kind of still live. They're not supposed to be forgotten. That's the big hope. Let's not forget these people. So this is why tombs are done, tomb inscriptions, so they don't get forgotten, right? They want to bring them in, make sure that they're remembered forever and ever. And so the goal is never to go to a good place. The goal is always to have a memory in the next life, right? So that the children and the children's children will remember them. And you've seen all these movies about the ancient things, right? Honor, my name will be, this is why you won't be remembered and I will be, right? That's the goal, is to be remembered for the things that they've done. No going to a bad place. Bad place is a later invention. Okay, it's not there yet. Goal is to be remembered, and that's how you keep living. So they live through their remembrance, which we're going to find in some of these cases, God himself does not remember them. Okay, so God ends up ghosting the ghosts. They want to be remembered, but God doesn't even remember them. That's like the ultimate, like, ugh, God doesn't even remember us. Okay, that's how David understands it when he's like, oh, even God doesn't remember the dead. He doesn't remember me. This is the situation I'm in. So by the time of the New Testament, of course, things are going to change. We talk about this almost every week, right? There's an evolution that takes place by the time you get into Second Temple kinds of things. So by the time you're reading like late Ezekiel, the time you're reading Daniel for sure. Okay, if you're reading First Enoch, okay, there's been some significant switches. They're starting to think about justice in a different way. And in order to get justice, we have to have something in the future. There has to be some place that we go where we're punished or where we're rewarded. And so heaven becomes this destination for some of the dead. And of course, there's the other place, which is very difficult to define. Hell, abyss, lake of fire is something different because hell gets thrown into the lake of fire, like all that stuff. That's not our topic. Our topic is just the dead and how they like communicate with the living. Let's see here. Anything really important? So yeah, there are lots of images of the underworld even in the New Testament. Things like the word Tartarus or abyss or things like that are going to show up. There's not a lot of conversation about what they are. So when we get to the New Testament, we'll look at things like Lazarus rising from the dead. We'll look at 1 Corinthians 15. Remember, that's like the body becomes immortal. So something about the flesh versus the spirit, some of the translations will say, but the idea is immortal or mortal. So why that's happening. We'll look at that weird parable about the rich man and Lazarus, where they're in those different places. We're not going to get a lot from that, but we'll look at it, and you can determine if something else is going to come out of it. Okay, Rephaim. That's our big word here, Rephaim. Which, by the way, also means, and we'll deal with this at the end of this whole thing, also refers to giants. So Rephaim, the Rapha are the ones who heal or are healed. They are the oversized ones. They are the undead, the dead coming out. We have more people in the waiting room, and I'm not seeing them. Daggone it. Lori Vokley, admit. Sorry, Lori. All right. Any of you guys who want to watch that participants list for me, see if it changes. See if I wonder if I close it, whether it will alert me. We'll see, I guess. Okay. So Deuteronomy 3:11, I think, is our first major instance of this. And we'll look at that more at the end because it's going to deal more with this aspect of it. But Deuteronomy 3:11 has this guy whose name is Og. Okay, so Og. And Og is the king of Bashan, or one of the kings of Bashan, or the king of the giants, the giant people. So the giants... The giants are the mythical forerunners to the people who lived in that land, who live in that land now. So they're the ancestors. So you can kind of see where it comes from. Like the ancestors are those who are long dead. Okay, so the Rephaim, they're dead, the Rapha, they're finished. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
But yeah, go ahead.
So when you're talking about the Rephaim and the giants, is this also, because I don't remember where, but it's somewhere back in there, where it talks about like large beings with like more fingers, like 4 fingers or 6 fingers, less fingers or more fingers. Is that part of this as well, the Rephaim, the giants, or is that something else? I think it's like Joshua. I don't remember where it is. Maybe when they're going into the land.
Different sets of fingers? Ooh.
I think so. I just can't remember where it is.
Googling that right now.
Wasn't
But I don't
that
remember.
brothers of Goliath?
Goliath has 4 fingers?
No, like didn't he have brothers with 6 fingers?
Maybe that's it. There's something about fingers and giants, but I don't remember what it is.
I don't remember that. That just,
Never mind.
knows?
Never mind.
no, I mean, this is cool. I want to know it. So if anybody happens to find it out, of course, everybody right now is Googling it. Like, we're going to find out. We don't care what you're talking about, Jace. The
I
six-fingered
think
man
it's-
is what
I
we
think
care
it's in
about. Princess
Chronicles.
Bride stuff. What?
I think it's in Chronicles, that description of Goliath's, of the giants' brothers.
Okay. All right. Well, if somebody spots it, I can't get on the internet down here very easily. So you guys will do my work there. And then Suzanne will be happy and I'll know more stuff for future classes. All right. So the idea is that they are the precursors to the people who live in each of those lands. So remember, remember that we've got like the Mediterranean Sea, we got Europe up here, we got Africa down here. This is the Middle East, right? So we've got places like Ammon, Moab, Edom. I didn't try to remember which one goes where, but they're all over here, right? They're all Transjordan places. They're all cousins. 2 Samuel, in still another battle which took place at Gath, there was a huge man, let's see, with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all. He was also descended from the Rapha. Look at you, Suzanne. All right. Okay. So yeah, this would be the same word. Okay. So again, it's the Rapha. Okay, or the Rephaim. So they were descendants of that. So the whole concept here, following right along with it, I forgot about this, or maybe I didn't know, I forgot. I must have known at some point. I read all the Bible many times. But is that these creatures are in the mythical past. Okay, so now I'm not saying necessarily that it's in their mind it's myth, but it's the ancestors from long ago, and the ancestors from long ago sometimes are still around, right? They still they creep in like a certain gene pool or something. Here they are, that's the giants, right? So we see them. People will complain like, oh, look, we're going to go into Canaan and those people are going to be like the Anakim. They're going to be the big ones, right? They're going to be giants. They're going to be like Rephaim. Or that if you're in, just depends on where you're at. The Anakim are the ones from Canaan. The Zenzumim are the ones from Ammon. Zamzumin. The Amim are the ones from Moab. So they just have all, remember, Eem is always plural. That's all that means. So the Zanzum, the Aim, the or the people, that's what it comes from, that word people. These are all like their ancestors. And as they've gone on, it's the people who can defeat them, who are bigger than regulars, right? So they come together in ancestors and giants. Okay, there is a combo there. So it's anywhere in like southern Syria before the Ammonites arrive, before the Moabites arrive. So the Moabites will be talking about, oh, in the world in the past, the Emim reigned supreme. By the way, they're almost always rulers, kings, okay, royal kinds of people. The ancestors, they're important. They're the people who lived 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years or something like that. They're very significant people, which tells us a lot about the Table of Nations in Genesis 11, right? How old they live and stuff like that. Okay, this is that mythical past. All right, now for me, you guys don't have to be, you can believe whatever you want. For me, all of that living to 900 years, I have a way to explain all of that really easy. Are you ready for this? This is going to blow your minds how easy this is to explain. It's fiction. That's it. It's fiction.
Amen.
Yep, got it.
It's just, now, I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't use it for theological purposes, that maybe some of the numbers are, like 365 years he lived might have something to do with solar, the sun, 365 days. Like people weren't kind of thinking about some of those things, but this is their mythical past. Their primeval, we call it, the primeval past. Okay. So everybody's going to have those stories about all of these different creatures. It's even called in Joshua 17, it's called the land of the Rephaim. Okay, the Canaanites. Like this is the land of Rapha. I actually wrote that down. Joshua 17:15. Call it the land of the Rephaim. So the dead, okay, the Rapha, they go down into silence. Psalm 115 talks about that. Psalm 14 talks about them sitting in darkness. These are the kinds of little things that click in for us, right? We know that no one sings songs about the dead because they're dead. They're no longer important. And then we look at, well, let's just do it. Let's just look at Psalm 88, which is the most horrifying psalm in the Bible. It's a very cool psalm, which we'll see right now, but it is also quite horrifying in the sense that it ends with the very last line is darkness is my only friend. Okay, it doesn't, most of these psalms, they're like, woe is me, misery, death wants me, all this stuff. But yay, God is my protector and my uplifter. This one just stops with, yeah, all of life is hell. Done. It's the end of the song. You're like, what? Give us something else. But there's nothing else. Which is a good song for us to sing sometimes.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
There you go. Very nice. Come to town. Okay. So Psalm 88, let's look at it as kind of an introduction to us. I know we're 30 minutes in, but Psalm 88, somebody want to read like the first 6 verses for us?
Listen, you got it?
Oh yeah, I got you, Josh.
Put him
Gotta
on
go
the spot,
calm.
huh?
Psalm 88, verse 1. O Lord, God of my salvation, at night when I cry out before you, let my prayer come before you, incline your ear to my cry. For my soul is full of troubles, and my life draws near to Sheol. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I am like those who have no help, like those forsaken among the dead, like the slain that lie in the grave, like those who you remember no more, for they are cut off from your hand. You have put me in the depths of the pit, in the regions dark and deep. Your wrath lies heavy upon me, and you overwhelm me with all your waves.
Selah.
Okay, so that is a lot. Okay, so let's walk through that. The first reference to the dead comes in verse 3, I think. Right? So he's crying out to God. He's doing all that in verse 1. My prayer is coming to you. I hope you hear me. I'm overwhelmed with troubles, and I live with the dead. My life draws near to death or to Sheol. Right? I'm getting ready to go into the place of the dead. All right, now let's keep going. What do you notice about this place? And there's no tricks here. I just want us to look at this text and just take some obvious things from it.
It's down in a pit.
Okay, it's down and it's in a pit. Those are two different things, right? I mean, I guess pits are always down, probably, right?
Yeah.
The weird pit that was up. So, yep.
Yeah.
There's
Dark.
there's others dead. There's
Dark.
other dead there.
There's other dead there. Yep. I'm set apart with the dead, so plural.
Isolation.
I can't get out.
They can't get out. What'd you say, Tom?
Isolation.
Isolation, right.
Cut
They're
off.
stuck. They can't get out. And then Suzanne, you had something else?
He's forgotten. You were saying they want to be remembered. So
Yeah. But they've been forgotten in this place. Yep. So no pearly gates, no highway to heaven, no angels, which I think we should probably be grateful for considering what we know about angels at this point. But right, it's not punishment, right? It's just the end. It's the dead. Like they didn't do something bad to get there. This is David, right? Psalm 88. Or it's at least a tribute to David.
Ecclesiastes seems to be like this too. It's just it. It's not very there's no afterlife.
Right. Yep.
It's seemingly.
Yep. It's all over. It's just when it's done, it's done. Yeah, they have no help. They're cut off from God. What?
I was gonna say the title in my version says it's actually not David, it's He-Man the Ezrahite, whatever that
Okay,
means.
yeah. I'm not even looking at that. So those titles, let me look at that. Psalm 88. I should have said it's a person who belongs to God, right? Which is because I didn't even look and see who it was. Psalm 88 is a psalm of the sons of Korah, a maskil of Heman the Ezrahite. Okay, so just for your own brilliant knowledge, so you can sound really smart, and pretentious when you come to be that little thing there in your Bible is part of your Bible. Okay, those superscripts are, I don't know if they're original, but they're part of the Hebrew text. So if you're reading Hebrew Bible, that's verse 1. So all of the Hebrew text is always off by one verse. Or not always, because there's not always a superscript. But a lot of times in italics in your Bible, it means that somebody's added something in later on, like giving you a cool title or something. That's not the case with these. These superscripts are there in the text. I mean, I don't know how important that is to know, but it is interesting. All right, so God doesn't remember in a world where all they care about is being remembered. There go down, darkness, dankness. Yeah, it's a mess. And speaking of there not being remembered, Isaiah 38 says that they cannot hope for God's faithfulness. In the pit, God is not faithful to them anymore, which I think is awfully dark and painful to think about that. So they need somebody living to remember them. God doesn't remember them. So it's a pretty bad spot. And I said before, even God ghosts the dead. God ghosts the ghosts. Right? There's nothing for him. All right, jump to verse 10. Riz, if you want to keep going, you can. Here's where we get the first view of the Rephaim, although we're talking about it throughout, but the word shows up. Verse 10, 11, and 12, maybe?
Okay, I can continue.
All right.
Do you work wonders for the dead? Do the shades rise up to praise you? Is your steadfast love declared in the grave, or your faithfulness in Abaddon? Are your wonders known in the darkness, or your saving help in the land of forgetfulness?
Okay, so a bunch of parallel verses here that are kind of work together. And you heard his word was shades in verse 10. That's how his translation was. Mine says spirits. It's the word Rephaim. It's what we have there. Ghosts, shades. And the spirits don't rise up and praise you. No, because they're dead, right? They're sleeping. They're generally just not doing anything. They need to be roused. Is your love declared in the grave, your faithfulness and instruction? No, nobody's out there evangelizing, talking about God's awesome works or power. No, they're dead. They're dead. They're in the place of Abaddon, his translation said, where we know is destruction, right? The place of ruin. Are your wonders known in the place of darkness, or your righteous deeds in the land of oblivion? So they don't know about him. He doesn't remember them. Disconnect, at least in this. And then you put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths. Your wrath lies heavily. So I went back, look at verse 6 again, just to connect verse 6 with verse 16. It says, you have put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths. Your wrath lies heavily on me. You've overwhelmed me with all your waves. You feel the water kind of, which is always the case, right? They go, there's water on the earth, there's water above the earth, and there's water in the earth. Right, so you live in the earth and the sea covers over you. You're dead in that. And verse 16, your wrath has swept over me. Your terrors have destroyed me. All day long, they surround me like a flood. They have completely engulfed me. You've taken me from my friend and neighbor. You've taken from me my friend and neighbor. Darkness is my closest friend. Okay, so darkest, sea, all the Leviathan stuff, which we'll do again. We did like 3 years ago, but we'll talk about again in this series. The dragon, death, yam, sea, chaos covering over.
I can't help but think
good.
Simon and Garfunkel were inspired by this. I mean, there's so much inspired. The more I get to know the Bible and then hear things and see things, the older I get, I guess the more culture I've been exposed to. It's like this thing just inspires. It's like if you want to make something great, take it out of the Bible. You know, steal it from the Bible. I'm having trouble with this, man. I'm not really. I mean, this is great, but this makes, like, out of all the things we've talked about, like, this makes me the most uncomfortable. Like, because it makes me seem, it's like this really makes me feel like, yeah, there is no there's no significant, like, afterlife for them in these passages. It seems to be there's no afterlife, and just goes contrary to what I've been taught my whole life. So it's why it's like, you know, I'm reading it for what it is, the text, and it's great to think of it this way.
Despondency.
It's really hard though.
Despondency, yeah.
Despondency. Just the thoughts before suicide.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it does
I mean,
seem to be.
Yeah, go ahead, Suzanne.
I was gonna say it does seem to be an afterlife. It's just not a joyful one. I mean, they're not gone. They're just they're dead.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Dead. Yeah. Which is not really a life, but it's kind of a life. But right. So it's this mythical world of the dead now. But they're asleep generally in this place. They don't communicate with each other very often, but sometimes they do. They don't come up very often, but sometimes they do. Generally, they're just dead. So
yeah, my knee-jerk reaction is to, like, think of ways I could refute this, like, and be like, well, there's got to be something, you know, and it seems to be, yeah, they've fallen asleep. That's what most of the time they say that they've fallen asleep. And
that's what Paul will talk about, them falling asleep. Yeah, and Jesus will say falling asleep.
Right.
Lazarus is asleep, and they'll be like, well, if he's only asleep, he's like, no, dude, they're dead. He's dead.
It really does speak to, if God's not going to remember somebody, the idea of him, his omniscience, if he's all know. I mean, it seems to be like he's not all knowing if he forgets. No, I mean, I don't want to go there with it, but
I just hear it as somebody's frame of mind,
right,
where they are, not necessarily that this is the truth and whatever. It's a frame of mind where they are. They're despondent. They think there is nothing left for them.
Yep.
Not Remember, that there isn't something left for them, but this is a prayer for help in despondency. And we get into those kinds of feelings and troubles at times, we human beings, where, you know, we are despondent.
Yeah, this isn't a dead person writing this.
I look at it.
Yeah, I agree. Right? It's not a dead person writing this from the grave. It's somebody who's alive, who's saying what's happening in the grave from his understanding, his imagination. Obviously, God's forgotten him. He's dead. Right? Look, he's not praising you. He's dead. He's not going around talking about the wonders, works of God. He's dead. Right? So yeah, despondency. Yeah, go ahead, Suzanne. Sorry, I jumped in.
I think it's interesting that you said that there's not communication between the dead. Like, they're mostly just there and then they come up sometimes. But I think that's interesting because I think that's an interesting parallel, because I think that's, I don't know, but like, I feel like isolation and no community, like that's an apt description of a place, you know, whatever you want to call it, hell, afterlife, like that's an apt description of that. I feel like one of the things that scripture is pointing to in terms of like the believing, the people who follow, like they're in community with one another, like they support one another. Like, I don't know. That's
really good.
I also think that the idea of resurrection body is the idea of this place. We're not hoping for this ethereal place like the Platonic forms, where our spirit's going to go up and we're no more bodies. It's like, no, the resurrection of the dead, our resurrection body is that much more meaningful if this is how we're thinking.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's good. Yeah. So remember, it's going to evolve. So people are going to grab hold of certain texts like the darkness and the non-community text. The ones where they actually do seem to communicate, we're just going to ignore those in order to prefer these in order to create our future understanding of things, which is exactly what we do, right? We notice certain verses and we bring them in and we create something around it. This is what's happening when they evolve this dark, dank place of no community into a place of hell, right? Where there's no, no friendships. And Lewis does that beautifully, right? If we want to talk about contemporary, hell for him, those of you who read The Great Divorce, I think Sharon was reading that, right? The Great Divorce, where they take the bus trip to heaven and the bus trip to hell. And the idea is that they go further and further out, right? The places that they are, the people who go to hell, they live, when other people join them in their neighborhood, they go further away. Like it's all about this isolation throughout it. It's just beautiful idea, right? It's just prophetic imagination. You're just thinking, like, what would it be like? What would be the worst thing that I can imagine? Not having anyone in my life. For some of you, it might be, no, having way too many people in my life. It's like a New York City street all the time. Like, that's my hell. Okay, well, then you would write your myth a little differently. All right, so we ended up with talking about the waters. Waters are a place that you're going to die to. It's still going under. Everything's always about being covered up over, right? So somebody who's dead, of course, is dead under the water or under the ground. In fact, at one point, the Eretz, right, is going to give up the dead. Often the Eretz opens up and sucks people down, right? And then they go everything goes under the ground. It's the idea. But one day, right, the earth is going to give up its dead, right? And so they're going to come back up. And when they come up, there's going to be, well, this is the final resurrection. And so when we get into Second Temple times, we have these two groups, Sadducees and Pharisees, that are going to debate the resurrection of the dead, right? Is there a future life for them? What is happening? And there's arguments because both of them are using the Old Testament to make their arguments, right? Their Bible. And they both have texts that make their points.
And the Sadducees are the ones who are saying they're against the resurrection, correct?
That's right. That's why they're
sad, you see. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
That's
good. They're sad, you see. All right. Yeah. There's no resurrection. Okay, anyway.
I wonder, like,
pastors only have like 3 jokes. This is our
go ahead. Right. The idea of the evolving afterlife obviously comes from Greek, Persia, I'm guessing even Egypt. Like it goes back even further. But yeah, how much of that is influencing them when they're writing? Because these things have to be around then too when they're writing this with Psalms. Yeah, aren't the Psalms like? I mean, I know this is technically like what 10th century BC, but it's really written down later. So when they're being written down, the other influences around them, there's afterlife influences around them, correct?
Yeah, I don't know too much. I mean, this is the world that I know right here. Right? So I don't know too much about Egypt's understanding of an afterlife. They had something. Probably your movies will give you that kind of stuff. I can't remember. But most of the time, it's not something like a good place or a bad place. So even there, and I don't know what our European group's doing at this time because they're not going to have a lot of influence there. So it's going to be Assyria or Syria, I guess even closer to them. These are going to be their main impacts, and Canaan. Okay, and probably Egypt, I guess that would make sense too. Persia's going to eventually influence them. Zoroastrianism on your bingo card for Josh. He brought up Zoroastrianism. So yeah, and I don't know too much about their understanding, but that's going to be later, right? Not as early as 10th, 9th century.
Yeah.
Like most of these are going to be thinking about mythological past and just being dead. So,
Okay.
all right. So all we've done now is Psalm 88. Really, we've looked at a couple of other passages. I just wanted to connect Psalm 88 to the 2 Samuel verse in 22, just to show you that there's two. Like God rescues us in some of these. 2 Samuel 22 says, the waves of death swirled about me. The torrents of destruction overwhelmed me. The cords of the grave coiled around me. The snares of death confronted me. Okay, so this is all that same stuff that we just heard about in Psalm 88. Okay, all these terrible things, except for in 2 Samuel, he gets rescued. That's the beauty of the psalm, right? Is that he gets pulled up. Okay, in Psalm 88, he doesn't. It's just he ends the song with, I'm sure it's on a minor note, a minor key, right? It's a very low minor key. So yeah, okay. So let's look at a couple other verses here. I just wrote these down. You're going to have to come up with brilliant things to say about them. So this is Job 26:5. Let's look at a few different ones. So somebody wrote Job 26:5. Somebody else grabbed Proverbs 2:18. And then we'll stay in Proverbs for a few verses. Proverbs 9:18 and 21:16. And you guys translate them. I'm going to try. I have it in Hebrew here, and it's been 15 years since I finished my PhD. Over 20 years since I was working heavy in Hebrew, so we'll play with this. 26:5.
The departed spirits tremble under the waters and their inhabitants.
Okay. So the departed spirits, so that's Rephaim, right? So the dead, Ha-Rephaim, Vahova Lalu, so tremble, that's that Lalu sound. And those under the waters, the Mayim, and those inhabiting them. All right, so say yours again in English. What'd you say?
The departed spirits tremble under the waters and their inhabitants.
Okay, so they're trembling in Job 26. Okay, what's our context there? Is there Job 26?
It says it's his ninth speech and he's responding to Bildad.
Okay.
I mean, that's the title of the chapter.
Oh, and it keeps going in verse 6. Death is naked before God. Destruction lies uncovered. He spreads out the northern skies over empty space. He suspends the earth over nothing. He wraps the waters in clouds. Covers the face of the full moon. The pillars of the heavens quake, aghast at his rebuke, at his gar, which is the word, for rebuke there. And he cuts up Rahab into pieces. Rahab is, again, a leviathan, a sea creature, sea monster. So this is a great passage. The dead are in deep anguish. Go ahead.
Is the word underworld in my version it says underworld. You said dead for verse 6, but then in my version for verse 5 it says the dead, the Rephaim you said. But what is the word at the beginning of verse 6? Is it Rephaim again or is it something different? Mine says underworld.
I didn't put the Hebrew down for that. So let's see here. Oh
no, wait, it says Abaddon. So it's Rephaim in 5 and it's Abaddon in 6. No? Because mine says Hebrew so. Abaddon. No? Oh no, Abaddon is destruction. Never mind.
Yeah, that's the word
Sheol.
destruction.
It says Hebrew Sheol. Yeah, I got it.
Wait, it says Sheol?
In my version, it says as a footnote, 6A is Hebrew Sheol and 6B is Hebrew Abaddon. I don't know if that's
there you
true.
go.
That's what it says.
I was looking for it, so there you go. It's Sheol. All right. I was gonna guess it was Moat, but I wanted to see if it was Sheol. So that's the dead. All right. So the Rephaim tremble. the dead, or the Sheol itself, is naked before God. Destruction lies uncovered. That is, the earth is opened up. So they're not being covered up anymore. And if you keep following this, you're going to see, like, Job 26 grabs pretty heavily, talking about what Josh was talking about, pretty heavily from Canaanite mythology, because you're going to have things like the word underworld, the word Zaphon, which is, their kind of holy mountain in the north. It just means north in Hebrew Bible, but it's where they go up to their cosmic mountain. The word void is going to show up here. A lot of that is Canaanite kinds of understandings of things. All right, so it's just kind of helping us put things together here. Rephaim is going to show up 3 times in Proverbs, always implies the dead, and the dead are always those who follow Lady Folly, right? So if you're foolish, you're going to end up in the Rephaim and with Sheol, right? Because foolish people die. Like, don't do that. This is what parents are teaching their kids, right? Constantly. Don't do that or you're going to die. Okay, I'm sure all of you have said that before to your children. So Proverbs 2:18 gives you a little piece of that. Anybody got that one?
I do. I have that one.
right.
Entering her house leads to death. It is the road to the grave.
Okay. Leads to death. That is the word mavet or mot there, and grave at the end there is the Rephaim, her paths into the place of the dead.
If there's no other place they're going, why does it matter?
Well, because you want to stay alive.
Right. I guess. Okay. So instead of just just being alive, I got you. Okay. But we're all, yeah. But we're all going to the same place. So it's like, oh yeah. Anyways, so it's that much more important to stay alive because we don't want to go to Sheol. I mean, like, okay.
Right.
That's applicable.
I think even now.
Go ahead, Lori.
I apologize.
No,
I think even now the Jewish faith is more about how you're living, not your doctrine, but how you're living.
I think Christianity should be and is supposed to be like that too. I'm just gonna go on a limb.
Well, yeah, we're trying to change the laws, Josh. Okay, we're trying to change the laws so they
here
live
at Tuesday
right.
School, we're doing a good job, Lori. We're
Okay.
Jace is inching us there slowly. We're becoming more alive.
Hopefully does not mean that we end up saying theologically that there is no heaven and no hell. That's not, in case somebody jumps off or something, that's not at all what I want to say here, right? All I'm saying is the Hebrew Bible, the people who understood things at their time would not have understood things that way yet, right? So we have this thing called progressive revelation, that God is slowly revealing himself more and more, and we get more and more clarification. So I don't mind calling myself a New Testament Christian, right? That I'm gonna have a preference for the New Testament over the Old Testament in where it's leading us to. I just don't think we need to end in the New Testament either. I don't think that's our ultimate understanding of theology. We're supposed to be seeing this movement and continue to move, continue to reimagine it, go forward with it, which is really hard to do. And it's why we come up with so many different views on everything, because we're all kind of doing what we're supposed to do. I just wonder whether we're really looking at Hebrew Bible and New Testament in order to get there. And that's what I want. I don't want us just to make stuff up. I want us to see how they ad-libbed. You remember my ad-lib thing? There's Shakespeare plays throughout history. They're doing Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And this new group, Paul, Jesus, etc., they know Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. So for Act 4, they don't have the same costumes exactly, but they're trying to get as close as they can to it. But they're ad-libbing. They don't have a script, so they're making this up. Okay, by looking at those and saying, okay, how about we talk like this in the British accent? It's kind of something like this. Does this sound right? More or less? And people do it a little bit differently. And then we come along and we're like, okay, do we have to use the Hebrew script like that was out there, or Paul and Jesus's ad-libbed script off of that one? Or are we supposed to create our own script for a new time in this new world that just kind of follows in that vein, but isn't those things? Which is where I would probably come down. It's neither of those things, but it's heavily indebted to those things that are taking us somewhere to Jesus. Yeah, go ahead, Lori.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so just listening, I brought up to you last week via text, Walter Brueggemann. So I was listening to another podcast because apparently this guy was pretty important. But anyway, it was an old interview of his, and he said it's a performance. And like if an analogy is Beethoven, you play one of Beethoven's pieces, it won't sound exactly the same. So you're performing you're trying to adhere to the way it was written, but you're not gonna have the same performance everywhere you go. It's gonna sound different.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anytime you can bring up Brueggemann here, that's a welcome thing. He passed away just last week, 2 weeks ago, really recently.
Oh yeah.
And he's like him and like Eugene Peterson would be heroes of mine. These are like super. I haven't met either one of them. I don't know them. I just read their works. Whenever I say things like prophetic imagination, you guys need to read in the back of my mind. Like that was the name of his book, right? Brueggemann's book. He's got so many great ones. Hope, grief. Anyway, read Brueggemann. He was a pastor scholar. There aren't very many of those.
So there was 23 people, and right before you said like, "Hey, just so you know, I don't want to get us that guy's whoever was left," and I was like, "We lost him! Oh no, and he's forever in the abyss." And
That's right.
And I normally don't do this, but I kind of like fed into the whole like making us feel uncomfortable, and I mean I was a little uncomfortable, and for me that means but anyways, the idea of doing that with 23. We never know, whoever that was that left. Yeah. I'm almost thinking that you should have opened up with that. Like, anyways.
Maybe they're watching on Facebook right now and they feel comforted that I said there can still be a heaven and hell. That is still very reasonable and possible.
Good. I feel comforted by that. So yeah, thank you.
Even though heaven and hell probably don't look anything like what we think they look like, completely different. So. In fact, they're probably more earthly than they are ethereally somewhere else. They're just life lived in Christ and outside of Christ. Very different things. Okay, let's keep going in Proverbs here for a couple more minutes. Then we won't finish this section, but then we can at least finish the Proverbs. Proverbs 9:18. Let's see here. Below Yadaki, but he does not know that the Rephaim, anybody got this text? That the dead are there.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Oh, go ahead.
The depths of Sheol.
But little do they know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of the grave or Sheol.
Yeah. They don't know that her guests are in the depths of hell. So Lady Folly has guests over at her house. Remember Lady Folly, she's trying to get the young man to come into her house while Lady Wisdom's trying to right? They're both trying to seduce him so that they can sleep with him. And the question is, will it be Folly or will it be Wisdom? And you were supposed to say, go Wisdom, go Wisdom. But he goes into Lady Folly, of course, because he's a young, stupid man. And he doesn't know that the guests of Folly are the dead. I like that there's a dinner table with all the dead sitting around. He doesn't realize that these are all the dead. That's just a great picture. I mean, you could preach that, couldn't you? Like, just picture that coming in there and seeing all these dead, right? And then they start eating you and, brains, whatever. Okay. So I wrote down just to remember this. I don't know that anybody will care, but this is a very similar kind of understanding. Like, when the dead because the dead have come up, right? They come into the house of folly. Again, they haven't really, right? It's just the way literature works. But Baal, happens in the Baal myths as well. That you can sojourn, actually, it's probably better to say not that they've come up into the land where folly lives, but that when you enter the path of into the house of folly, you end up entering into the house of folly. Folly is in the place of the dead. And so Baal in the Ugaritic myths ends up going down into the place of the dead. And you've probably seen some Greek myths of that, right? like the
Orpheus.
heroes have to go down into Hades or something. Somebody said something. Sorry, Orpheus. Yeah. So it's those kinds of stories where they go in, and this is what's happening. Young men, when you're being seduced by these things, don't be foolish. You're going into hell. You're going into the place of the dead. All right. Proverbs 21:16 is our last proverb here.
I've got that.
Okay.
Whoever wanders from the way of understanding will rest in the assembly of the dead.
Ooh. Oh man, there's so many powerful words in this that you guys would probably know. So you said someone, so that Adam is that first word there. So man, it just means man, right? So mankind who wanders, is that what you said?
Yes.
So yeah, who wanders from the road, from the way, Derek, the path of understanding, Hishkal, in the assembly, kahal, which is the same word that we use for church, kahal. So it's in the assembly of the dead. Will rest, ruach, who will rest, like, or nuach, sorry. The word Noah will rest in the place of the dead, the Rephaim. That's just full of all those powerful words that Proverbs is grabbing hold of from Genesis. Will rest in the place of the dead. I would love to read an article on that as to how many of those words, wandering, Adam, Hashkal, assembly, Kahal, the Rephaim are all throughout there, and Nuach. That's very cool. I'll bet you there's an article on that somewhere. All right, let's see here. All right, do we want to talk for a few minutes about this stuff? Get some of your thinking out. I don't have enough for a whole other one, but I got enough to at least get us heavily started next time. What do you think about this? Does this make you uncomfortable? Maybe you've already talked about it enough, but I'll give you a chance.
I like it. I think it's helpful to think about these things from their perspective because I don't know. I think right now you're hearing so much that's not helpful in terms of like, I don't know, the way that the conservative evangelical church perceives hell. I just don't think it's always and death is always a very helpful thing. And I think it's helpful for me to think through and look at some of these ancient ways and these myths and think through how that informed, obviously it changed, but I think it's helpful to look back right now. It's helping me at least.
That's good. How it informs that New Testament theology, how they start to evolve it. Yeah. That is helpful. I agree.
The word assembly seems to be a little bit churchy, like it's a church of some kind, good or bad.
Yeah. So the word kahal it just means a gathering, like a group. So anytime 5 or 6 people get together and they're like, my crew, this is my kahal, right? This is my group. So of course the church also, there is no church in the Old Testament. There is in the sense that there's God's people in the Old Testament, but there's no group. The kahal are the ones that Moses would read the commands to, right? The mitzvot. So he would come and read to the kahal, the assembly. So they would get up in the morning, he'd stand a little bit on the mountain, maybe, I'm just imagining this, and he'd read some passages, right? He'd read something. I have no idea what he would read. He would give them that to the kahal. So it's later that we start to call that a church. But it's kind of the same thing, like when we talk about the ecclesia, the ekkaleo, the called out ones, all it means is the group of people that are different, like the group, the ones that got called out, the special, like they're over here together. So it's got a churchy feel to it, especially for us now, but it didn't to them. It didn't automatically mean that we're going to sing songs or do anything like that. It just meant an assembly.
Because earlier we were talking about how you were talking about there was no communication. I thought, well, that's interesting. But like, would that imply that there's at least some sort of community or communication or something? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember, I started this off by saying there's two, shades and ghosts, right? Shades are the ones that communicate like together in that place of the dead. And then ghosts are the ones who communicate with the living. So definitely there are some stories where, the shades are hanging out and doing stuff, right? There's movement, but most of the time in Hebrew Bible, you have to wake them up. So they're asleep. And you'll see that like the most obvious one, which we'll talk about next week, is the Witch of Endor, right?
Yeah.
Which is not the Ewok place, but the place where Saul Saul comes. And we'll detail that. We'll walk through it in some detail just to remember what's going on there. Because that's a weird passage. Like Samuel gets up from the grave and talks to Saul. And is kind of ticked off that he has to, and then tells him what he needs to tell him, right? And nobody's surprised by it.
The witch of Endor is surprised.
She's
surprised when Samuel shows up.
I'll have to reread the passage. I didn't recall. I mean, she's the one who's trying to get him there. So she's doing the whole.
But the way he comes, it surprises her.
All right. Well, we'll be looking at it next week. So I wasn't quite ready for it yet this week, so that's good. But I didn't remember that, which is why we do this in community, because I can't remember all the passages perfectly. So I didn't remember that the guy had 24 different fingers and toes. That's super cool to me. I'd forgotten that. So
it's interesting to think of the dead as mostly asleep as well, because my association with sleep for the most part is like peace, right? Like, I mean, that's the way you want to die. You want to go out in your sleep. Like you don't, like sleep doesn't seem bad.
So let me see if I can do it a little better than this. Won't clear things up, but I'm not necessarily saying that in their understanding they're mostly asleep. I'm saying the passages that we have in Hebrew Bible are mostly about waking them up, right? So the Hebrew Bible is just one source. It's actually like lots of different sources, but it's one set, one corpus. There's lots of other stories that are happening during this time about dead communicating and doing all kinds of different things. We just didn't go into great detail in those other worlds. So if you just looked up, even probably on Wikipedia, I didn't do this, but if you just Wikipedia dead in the ancient Near East talking together, I'll bet you there's a bunch of stuff. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up right now, but I know that shades exist, right? So the jinn of different, they travel around, they have conversations, they do stuff. But I can't seem to find many/any Hebrew Bible ones where they're just having a party down there or anything. Like it's regular communication. Because most of it is how the people who are writing it communicate with them. And so therefore they have to be roused or taken out of their place. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Well, this is totally random, but you mentioned jinn, which is in Islam as well. Like, where does that originate? Where did the jinn originate? Because I'm curious about that.
I don't know. That's a great question.
Okay, never mind.
That's probably, again, a quick Wikipedia search will give you the basics on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it exists in lots of cultures, but yeah, these are generally Arab cultures. And it should be basically the same thing as shades. We just have different names because we have different languages.
Right. Same thing.
So I don't know where it starts, but my guess, completely a guess, is that it has the same kind of thing as Zamzumim, Amin, right? It has a past, a mythological past of ancestors that used to exist and now don't anymore. And then they become raised to mythological expectations. They're rulers, they're giants, things like that. But I don't know. I'm completely making this up at this point. Don't take any of that for anything. In fact, I mean, as we close, maybe I should say, don't take any of this stuff as theological, like truisms, right? I don't mean just because I'm not smart enough to be able to do that. I just mean that's not the way the Bible is meant to be taken. Okay. So if you're new, this is the most mind-blowing thing that we probably do here regularly is try to remind you the Bible is not intended to give you a treatise on the way everything is supposed to be understood. So you're just like, oh, well, I want to know what heaven is. And then you just read all the passages about heaven in the Bible and you can come up with the perfect answer. That's just not the way it's meant to be done. Stop reading the Bible that way as if it has the final answer on things. That's not what it's doing. It's telling you lots of different stories that are heading in a direction, how Israel is in need of something and is not finding it. And then the New Testament is to say, here's how you find it, right? This is where it's all coming. And they're going to tell the story in lots of different ways. But Jesus is a new Moses. He's a new Abraham. He's a new Noah. He's a new Adam, right? They're going to use all these ancient people, people of old, and they're going to say, he fulfills these in a new way. That's where it's headed. And he says, I'm going to take you to a place where you're going to be with me and all is going to be well. That's what we know. Like, we're not going to be walking on streets of gold. We're not going to be having pearly gates. There's not going to be like, scary cherubim guarding the throne. Like, I mean, maybe there is. I'm just saying that's not the way you grab hold of the Bible and use it. Okay, and if we stop using it that way, we're going to end up with a lot more freedom, I think. Also, a lot more danger, maybe, right? Because you can start doing a lot more with the Bible that than you probably are used to, and you'll be called, a heretic pretty quick. But we still want to travel in that line, right? We want to follow that line. If we want to stay in the Christian tradition or in the Judeo-Christian movement, right? You don't have to stay in that movement. You can do whatever you want. You can go out there and say, here's what I think the Bible says, and I think it's all bogus and ridiculous. In fact, I don't believe in Jesus. That's fine. You can do all that stuff. But if you're in that world, right, if Jesus has done something in your life, then I think there is a movement that for Christians for thousands of years have been following this text, right, and where it's leading us. It's not a magic text, though, right? It's not something handed down from on high that God gives us and, right? I had a conversation today with somebody on staff because we did the Pledge of Allegiance at our VBS. And I was like, I don't really understand that. And my problem wasn't just with the Pledge of Allegiance to America. That's a whole other thing. But we pledge allegiance to the Bible. Like, I don't pledge allegiance to the Bible. If you want me to pledge allegiance to Jesus, I'm in. Like, I'm in for that one. The Bible is taking us somewhere to Jesus. So that's where I was.
Dude.
Well, I'm the pastor, so I don't get.
They
They work for
Nobody
me,
gets back.
but
Yeah.
no, there was no flack for that. Like, there was just a conversation. I wasn't saying, "Here's what we're gonna." I don't lead like that. We were just talking about it, and it was a good, amiable conversation. Like, oh, about this, okay. So,
Jace, I think
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
interesting that people through cultures and through ages, the fear of death and the isolation that they feel from something spiritual and the hope of something different and whatever, is expressed in the kinds of things that we're talking about tonight, those monsters that are down there after we die and we're going to meet up with and that kind of thing. That, that those things that are a frame of mind and the longing to have interaction and community with people, or not have isolation and whatever, is imagined in these kinds of things that they are telling us about in these stories. And they evolve and they put different characterizations on them in different communities, different regions of the world or whatever. But it's interesting to me that we have the same kind of feelings as we go along within us as human beings. And, the fear of death. They're
Yeah.
looking for something that is more peaceful, more and commitment, and a safe place, a place where there's love, not hate. That you're going to be okay there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, what I heard, some of the stuff oh, sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
finished.
You paused, so I thought I'd jump in, but you didn't.
I'm finished.
You were done. Okay. We need you like over and out, Roger, it's your turn now. Yeah, that fear idea helps us is what makes us create all of these things. And we're looking for more comfort in certain areas, or we're looking for justice for things, they did something bad, so they need to, something has to happen to them. And so we have these different ideas. Yeah. And we need to evolve it enough. Because as you were saying that, like, we want to be the place where God is, I was thinking, well, I'm not like, at least if we stay in the Hebrew Bible, being where God is means a lot of those monsters are with him, right? So I don't really want to be with him because of all that stuff that's happening there. But that's why we've kind of transitioned through that. And these monsters became bad guys instead of functionaries of God that become his enemies later on. So.
Yeah, the divine council and these kinds of things. That's I want to do some, maybe we can do something on that, because we're going to talk about that, like the idea of these monsters being with God and some kind of celestial realm and like helping him make choices. So interesting to me.
Yeah. I thought we talked about the divine council enough. I figured people were bored, but
Yeah.
I can certainly bring that one back up at some point. Maybe we'll wait a little while to bring it back up. But all right, it is
an idea of how to deal with those concepts of what's going on. Evil, good and evil.
Yep. All right. Well, that's gonna have to all be for another week because it is 9:19. So now I have to figure out how to stop the recording. Stop recording. Boom. All right. Some of you will say goodbye, which is fine. Thank you for coming.